never thought betrayal could sound gentle, that it could hide under warm voices, Sunday prayers, and the rustle of old photo albums. But I learned the hard way that family doesn't always stab you in the back. Sometimes they watch you drown and call it what's best for you. My name is Emily. I'm 34 years old, and until last year, I believed loyalty was my greatest virtue. I believed in family no matter how many times they forgot to believe in me. I grew up in a small town, the quiet niece who stayed behind while everyone else built picture-perfect lives somewhere better. I wasn't glamorous like my cousins. I didn't chase big careers or marry someone powerful. I stayed. I worked. I helped. I never asked for anything. But maybe I should have. Because when my grandmother fell ill, everyone disappeared until the day they smelled money. It was late spring, the kind where the air smells like rain and lilac trees. When my uncle called, "Emily, dear," he said, in the same tone he used when I was 6 and too shy to answer the teacher. "We need to talk about your living situation." That phrase, "your living situation," should have warned me, but I was naive, tired, heart-heavy from a year of caring for Grandma as dementia slowly pulled her away from me. "I can meet you," I whispered, shifting the blanket over Grandma's legs. She was dozing peacefully in her armchair, her favorite old movie humming softly on the TV. "No need," he replied briskly. "Family will come to you. We'll be there Saturday. Prepare the dining room." He hung up without waiting for a response. "Family will come to you." They hadn't been here in months. Not through the hospital scares. Not through the nights Grandma wandered the halls calling for her mother. Not when I cried silently into the sink, terrified I was failing her. But they'd come now. I should have known why. Saturday arrived with polished shoes, expensive coats, and a chill that seeped into my bones. My uncle, aunt, and 2 cousins swept through the house like they owned the oxygen. The smell of their perfume and confidence filled the living room. "Emily," my uncle said, offering a stiff smile. "You look tired." I forced a nod. Grandma had a rough week. My cousin Jessica, flawless hair, diamond wedding ring, soft hands that never scrubbed medication stains from sheets, patted my shoulder. "You should really take better care of yourself. Self-care is important." He swallowed hard. "I know. You always did overdo things," my aunt added, removing her sunglasses indoors like she came straight from a movie set. "Caring is noble, but we all have our limits." Funny, I never saw their limits until money was involved. We sat at the dining table that still smelled faintly of Grandma's cinnamon bread. It felt wrong. This table was where she taught me to knead dough, to laugh, to exist freely. Now it felt like a courtroom. My uncle folded his hands, eyes warm like honey, warm enough to drown you without noticing. "We've been discussing future planning, Mom's care, the house, finances." My stomach twisted. "We found a wonderful memory care facility," he continued, sliding brochures across the table. "Professional, safe, structured." My chest tightened. "Grandma wants to stay home," she told me every day. "With dementia," he corrected. "Her wishes aren't reliable." I flinched. "She's not gone." Jessica's voice was soft. "Too soft. None of us want this. But you're overwhelmed. You can't do this alone. She needs professionals." "I am doing it," I whispered. "She's safe, stable, happy. For now," my uncle said gently, "but we must think long-term." My aunt cleared her throat. "And the property, well, you've lived here rent-free for nearly 2 years. That isn't sustainable. We need to convert the estate for care expenses." Rent-free. I paid the utilities. I bought medications. I cooked, cleaned, bathed her, managed her appointments. But in their eyes, I was freeloading. "What estate?" I asked quietly. "Grandma owns this home. She gets her pension. I manage her bills." My uncle lifted a thick folder. "Legal papers." My name wasn't on them. We're petitioning for guardianship, he said calmly, like it was nothing, financial and medical, for everyone's benefit. Really, once approved, we'll begin transition plans. Guardianship. They wanted to strip me of authority, of agency, of dignity. They wanted to take her from me and throw me out. You didn't even ask me, I whispered. We didn't want to burden you, Jessica replied, voice syrup sweet. Burden me. Like pushing me aside wasn't the real goal. My aunt leaned forward. And when everything is settled, you'll need to move out. We'll give you a fair timeline, perhaps 30 days. The room shrank. My breath thinned. My bones felt hollow. So you want to take Grandma and the house and toss me out with the trash? Oh, don't be dramatic, my uncle murmured. We love you. We just know what's best. Grandma stirred in the living room, murmuring my name. My heart cracked. She knows me, I whispered, tears clawing forward. Even when she forgets everything else, she knows me. My uncle sighed. Emily, love doesn't equal capability. But greed equals leadership, I shot back, voice shaking. Silence. Aunt's face iced over. My cousins exchanged looks. They didn't expect resistance. They never thought I would raise my voice. Because in this family, kindness was weakness. Quietness meant disposable. Think carefully, my uncle warned softly. Fighting us will not end well for you. And in that moment, I realized something brutal. They never saw me as part of this family. I was a placeholder, a convenient caretaker until they returned to collect their inheritance. I wasn't losing a home. I was finally seeing the truth. That night, after they left the house heavy with decisions they believed were final, I stood in Grandma's room watching her sleep. Her silver hair framed her face like moonlight on snow. She looked peaceful, safe, mine to protect. And for the first time, instead of feeling powerless, something inside me steadied, hardened, sparked. I walked into the hallway closet, reached behind the winter coats, and pulled out the folder Grandma had tucked there 2 months earlier. Only open this if they ever try to take the house, she'd whispered, her rare lucid eyes sharp and knowing. My hands shook as I opened it, and when I saw what was inside, what she had secretly arranged long before her memory began to slip, my breath caught. Everything changed in that moment. They thought I was weak. They forgot who raised me. This wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed holding the folder like a lifeline, my lamp casting a soft golden circle across the worn carpet. The rest of the room felt like it was fading into darkness, like the walls couldn't decide whether to protect me or collapse on top of me. Inside the folder were 3 things: a notarized letter titled Living Trust Agreement, a handwritten note in Grandma's elegant cursive, and a business card. I traced the ink on the note first, my chest tightening with every loop of her letters. My dear Emily, family doesn't always love you, right? But the ones who stay, who care, deserve more than scraps and silence. You have protected me. Now let me protect you. Love always. Grandma. I choked on a sob so quiet it felt like it didn't even escape my body. My throat burned as I pressed the paper to my chest. For months. Maybe years. I'd convinced myself I was doing this alone, but I wasn't. She saw me. She always saw me. I turned to the legal agreement. The first line hit like electricity. I, Margaret Louise Hartwell, hereby establish an irrevocable living trust, naming my granddaughter, Emily Rose Hartwell, as sole trustee and life beneficiary of my estate and residence. Sole truste, life beneficiary, irrevocable. My hands trembled around the page. My uncle's plan, every threat. Every smug smile crumbled in my mind like old paper. She had already chosen me. She trusted me long before they remembered she existed. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so I did both silently, clutching that stack of papers like armor. Then I flipped over the business card. Benjamin Cole. Elder Law. Estate Protection Attorney Private Line. 555-108-7429. Grandma had a lawyer. A private lawyer. She hadn't just trusted me. She had prepared for this. Suddenly, the fear didn't feel so suffocating. It burned hot. Righteous. Alive. They thought I was alone. No. I had her. I had proof. And now, I had a choice: hide. Or fight. I wiped my eyes and stood up. The folder still pressed against my chest like a shield. I walked to Grandma's room and paused at her door. The nightlight cast a warm glow across her face. She looked peaceful, unaware of the storm swirling around her. I moved closer, brushing a loose curl behind her ear. "I'll protect you," I whispered, "and I'll protect what you gave your life to build." Her breathing stayed soft and steady, but I swear maybe it was my imagination. Her hand twitched toward mine. A promise answered by a sleeping hero. Morning came with sunlight spilling across the kitchen tile. But the warmth didn't reach me. I made oatmeal the way Grandma liked milk. Cinnamon. And a splash of honey even though she wasn't awake yet. Habit. Love. Muscle memory. Built on devotion. Not duty. My phone buzzed. Uncle Mark. A text. Paperwork ready. Meeting at 4 p.m. to finalize plans. Finalize plans. They really thought yesterday was the prelude instead of the execution. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. They wanted to corner me like a scared animal. They'd forgotten something vital. Animals fight back when you threaten their den. Grandma shuffled into the kitchen in her slippers. Her hair was messy. Her eyes bright with a flicker of clarity, the kind that always pierced straight through me. "You didn't sleep," she murmured, voice thin but firm. I smiled weakly. "How could you tell? You always look like a haunted raccoon when you're thinking too much." Despite everything, a laugh escaped me. God, I needed that. She sat, folding her hands on the table. They came. They did. And they want everything. They do. She nodded slowly, absorbing it like someone listening to the weather. Not impending betrayal. "Well," she said simply, "then it's time to make sure you have everything you need." My throat tightened. "You already gave me everything." She touched my hand, her palm papery and warm. "Not yet." By noon, I had called Benjamin Cole. His tone was calm, warm, deeply certain, like he'd done this 1,000 times and never once lost. "Emily," he said, "I've been expecting your call." Expecting. Grandma hadn't just prepared, she had anticipated. He asked me to bring the trust documents to his office. He reviewed everything with careful precision while I sat gripping the chair arms like they might vanish. "The trust is ironclad," he finally said. "Your uncle has no legal authority. They cannot remove you from this home or make healthcare decisions without your consent." My breath left my body in one long shudder. "So, I'm not crazy. They can't take her." His eyes softened behind wire-rimmed glasses. "They can't take anything." I swallowed hard. What do I do now? We'll join their meeting at 4 o'clock. He smiled. "You're not going to face them alone." My heart swelled, bitter and grateful all at once. I had never wanted a fight, but I wasn't going to run from one. We printed copies, prepared statements. Not threats, truths. I looked at the clock. 3:28 p.m. My hands shook again. But not from fear. From adrenaline. From purpose. From strength I didn't know lived inside me. At 3:55 p.m., Benjamin and I pulled into Grandma's driveway. My uncle's silver SUV already sat outside, gleaming like arrogance under the afternoon sun. My aunt paced at the front door, lips tight like she was chewing bitterness. Grandma rested in her recliner inside, eyes closed. The afternoon sun touching her face. Peace clung to her like a shield. I walked in first. My uncle stood, folder in hand. a rehearsed look of concern plastered on his features. "Emily," he said, relief dripping from his voice like syrup. "Good. We were worried you wouldn't show. This is for your good too. Sweetheart." Sweetheart. That word hit differently, now, not affectionate, but patronizing, diminishing. Before I could speak, Benjamin stepped in behind me and closed the door. My uncle's face shifted. Surprise tightened into confusion. "Hello," Benjamin said smoothly. "I'm attorney Benjamin Cole. I represent Emily and Mrs. Hartwell." My uncle blinked. "Excuse me, represent." "Yes," Benjamin replied, voice gentle but unshakable. "Emily is sole trustee of Margaret Hartwell's estate. Any decisions regarding her care or property will go through her. Effective immediately." Silence. Thick. Heavy. Stunned. My aunt's mouth parted. Jessica's eyes narrowed. My uncle's voice dropped to a low, warning growl. "What have you done?" I raised my chin. "Protected her. And myself?" "You manipulated her." He spit. "No," I said quietly. "I stayed. That's all I ever did." He scoffed. "But it cracked. She doesn't know what she's doing anymore." Benjamin slid a document across the table, tapping it once. "She did when she signed this. Dementia does not erase capacity, and neither does your entitlement." My uncle's face flushed red. "How dare you?" "No." I cut in, voice shaking but strong. "How dare you?" The room froze. "For abandoning her. For returning only when money appeared. For calling this house yours before her body is even cold." My voice didn't break. It sharpened. "You thought I was weak. Invisible. Someone you could step over." I looked at Grandma. Her eyes were open. Clear. Fixed on me with quiet pride. "You forgot who she raised." I finished. No one spoke. Outside. The wind rustled the maple tree. Inside. The truth settled like dust after a storm. Benjamin closed his briefcase. "This conversation is concluded. Formal notices will follow." My uncle stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Like he was realizing the shadow he ignored had a spine and teeth. "Emily," he whispered, voice low with disbelief. "You think you won?" I met his gaze. Steady. I think I finally stopped losing. His jaw clenched. He grabbed his coat and stormed out. My aunt followed, pale and silent. Jessica lingered behind, eyes darting between me and Grandma, like she wasn't sure who the enemy was now. When the door finally closed behind them, I exhaled. I felt taller, rooted, alive. Grandma smiled faintly. "Told you," she whispered. "Family doesn't always see you. Until you make them." I knelt beside her chair and took her hand. "We're safe," I whispered. "For now," she murmured. "But strength needs maintenance. So do boundaries." I laughed softly, tears spilling. "I think I'm learning." "Good girl." I rested my forehead against her knuckles. And for the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel like a battleground. It felt like home again. Our home. Mine to protect. Hers to live in. Ours to reclaim. The storm hadn't ended. But I wasn't afraid of rain anymore. They didn't come back the next day. Or the day after that. For 48 hours the house was quiet. Peaceful in a way that felt strange, like sitting in the eye of a storm, and forgetting wind even existed. I woke up early, made coffee, and stood at the kitchen window watching dew gather on the garden roses Grandma planted years ago. The petals still open to the sun, soft and fearless, as if they didn't know what almost happened here, as if they didn't care. Maybe nature always believes in second chances. I set Grandma's breakfast tray the way she likes it, oatmeal with cinnamon. Sliced peaches on the side. Her favorite mug that says kindness is a language the deaf can hear. She shuffled in just as I poured her tea. "You look lighter," she murmured, sitting slowly, like someone removed something heavy from your pockets. I smiled faintly. Maybe they did. But truthfully, I was still trembling inside. Not from fear anymore, but from the aftershock of finally pushing back. When you spend your life being quiet, speaking up isn't a switch, it's a quake. You know, Grandma said, stirring her tea. When I signed that trust, I wasn't worried you'd use it. I was worried you wouldn't. He blinked. I didn't want to fight. No one does, she said softly, but sometimes the fight finds us. Her words settled deep, heavy and warm, like a blanket placed over a wound. I sat down across from her. I don't regret protecting you, but I hate that it came to this. She looked out the window, eyes tracing sunlight on leaves. It always comes to this eventually. Money reveals motives, illness reveals alliances, and silence. She paused, meeting my gaze. Silence reveals who they think they can walk over. He swallowed hard. She wasn't wrong, and I had been silent too long. But silence was comfortable until the moment it became a sentence. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. Uncle Mark. For a moment I didn't move. My stomach tightened, bracing for venom disguised as concern. I let it ring out. Then a text came through. We need to talk. 6 p.m. Your house. A command, not a request. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. My chest filled with heat, anger, dread, some wild mix of both. Trouble? Grandma asked gently from the living room, knitting needles clicking rhythmically. They want to talk again. My voice felt small. Tonight. She nodded once, unfazed. Then we talk. He hesitated. You don't need to. Yes. She cut in. I do. Her knitting paused. They need to see me choose you. Not just in writing. In voice. A lump formed in my throat. Are you sure? She lifted an eyebrow, the same stern, dignified expression she used when I lied about brushing my teeth at age 7. I am old. Not gone. That hit me like a blessing and a warning. Okay. She wanted this. So I would face them. With her beside me. Not as a scared little girl at the mercy of louder people, but as someone who finally understood her worth, and the worth of the woman who raised her to be gentle. Not weak. 6 p.m. arrived like a drumbeat. They came again, uncle. Aunt. Cousins. Same perfume. Same self-righteous posture. But their faces were tighter now. Less certainty. More calculation. They didn't see me as prey anymore. They saw me as an obstacle. Even the air changed when they stepped inside, heavier. Hungrier. Like they carried their disappointment with them. Emily. My uncle greeted curtly. Mother. Grandma sat upright in her armchair. Posture regal, despite her frailty. Hello. Mark. She said crisply. You look tired. He blinked. Thrown off. This has been stressful. For you, she asked. Tony sweet as poison. Imagine how it feels to be nearly kidnapped by your own children. He stiffened. My aunt's lips pressed into a thin, brittle line. We weren't kidnapping you. My aunt snapped. We were planning care. Without me, Grandma's tone sharpened. Without Emily. Without asking what I wanted. My cousin Jessica chimed in. Voice saccharine again. We just didn't want you burdening Emily. My grandmother's laugh was soft and lethal. Burdening, she saved me. The silence that followed felt like a slap. My uncle straightened his jacket. Mother. Emotions aside. That's your problem. She interrupted sharply. You always set emotions aside. Especially mine. His mouth opened. Closed. Like he was choking on unspoken entitlement. You used to call me Mommy. She said softly. And now you call me Mother like I'm a business colleague. You resent negotiating with. He flinched. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Grandma continued. Voice calm and steady. Emily didn't give up her life to benefit from mine. She gave up her life to protect mine. I stared at her, throat aching, the weight of every lonely night spent crying into my pillow, the nights I wondered if anyone saw, if anyone valued it, hit me like a tidal wave. You weren't here, she said to them. Words like soft knives. You didn't visit. You didn't help. You didn't ask. My uncle's face reddened. We have lives, careers, families. And Emily had love. Grandma countered. That's the difference. He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw it, the dawning realization that he had underestimated something priceless. You can't cut us out, he muttered. Family is family. A bitter smile tugged at Grandma's lips. Family is who shows up. My breath caught. He stared at her, then at me. Resentment hardened his eyes. So that's it. We're nothing to you now. Grandma sighed. Tired but resolute. You are always something to me, but Emily is everything you failed to be. They stared, stunned, and I felt something inside me root itself. A truth settling like a seed in rich soil. I wasn't second choice. I wasn't backup. I wasn't convenient. I was chosen. Not by bloodline expectation, but by loyalty, love, presence. My uncle finally exhaled sharply. If that's how you feel, then we'll be going. My aunt muttered something bitter under her breath. Jessica stared at me, a flicker of shame in her eyes. Then the door closed behind them. Silence. Not fearful, not heavy. Peaceful. Grandma leaned back, breath trembling with exhaustion but satisfaction shining through. You did well, I whispered, kneeling beside her. So did you, she murmured. Now rest. Victory needs rest as much as warriors do. I laughed through tears and rested my head gently against her knee. She stroked my hair like she used to when thunderstorms kept me awake as a child. And for the first time in months, I felt safe. Not because trouble was gone, but because I wasn't running anymore. Because I had stood my ground and survived. Because I wasn't invisible. Not to her, not to myself. The world outside might still doubt me, but this house knew the truth. And so did I. For a few precious days after that confrontation, life fell into something almost sacred. Quiet mornings with soft sunlight drifting across hardwood floors, the scent of chamomile tea and warm toast, the gentle rhythm of caring not from obligation, but from choice. It felt like exhaling after years of holding my breath. I grocery shopped without feeling rushed. I cooked meals while humming instead of crying. I even sat on the porch one evening, watching the sky melt into shades of tangerine and lavender, letting my thoughts float without sinking. But peace has a way of testing you. Not to break you, but to make sure your strength wasn't a fluke. The storm didn't end just because they walked out. It paused, and then it returned. It started with small disturbances. A letter slid under the door from a law office, not Benjamin's. A voicemail from my cousin whispering, "There's talk in the family thread," my uncle's wife posting online about ungrateful relatives who manipulate seniors. She never mentioned names. She didn't have to. But worst of all, the phone calls. Blocked numbers. Late at night. Silence breathing at the other end. Then hanging up. Fear tried to creep back in. Slow and poisonous. That old whisper I thought I was done with. You don't belong here. They'll come take everything. You're just the quiet one. But now, there was another voice too deeper. Steadier. You stood your ground once. You can do it again. The breaking point came one Thursday evening. I was in the kitchen rinsing dishes when headlights swept across the window. Brakes crunched over gravel. Too sharp. Too sudden. I froze. Dripping plate still in my hand. Footsteps. Fast. Deliberate. A fist hit the front door. 3 rapid knocks. Not frantic. Not polite. Demand. I dried my hands, heart pounding, and peeked through the curtain. Uncle Mark. Alone. Face Polly. Eyes hard with something meaner than anger, something like desperation. I unlocked the door halfway, leaving my body behind it like a shield. "What do you want?" He didn't greet me, didn't fake warmth. His words came out in a clipped breath. Mother fell. My stomach dropped. "What?" "At the pharmacy. She fainted," he said. "She's at County General." Air rushed out of me violently. I turned back toward Grandma's room, instinctively forgetting she was resting after physical therapy, safe in her recliner only hours before. My uncle's voice sharpened. "Not your grandmother. My wife's mother." For a moment my body sagged, dizzy with relief, then heat flushed my face. "Why would you come here to tell me that I demanded?" His jaw clenched. "Because it reminded me life can change in minutes. I came to make one offer. One final offer." I knew that tone. It was the same one he used when I was little, and he told me to be reasonable. He'd never learned that reason and control weren't synonyms. "Give up the house," he said. "Sign over medical and financial authority. Walk away peacefully. We'll give you 6 months and—" I shut the door. He shoved it open with his palm before it latched. "Emily," his voice dropped to a dangerous quiet, "you think you won because of some papers? Because Mother had a sentimental moment she's declining. Sooner than you think. And when she's gone, she's not dead." I snapped. My voice came out harsher than I expected. "And she won't be pushed aside like some old furniture you don't want anymore." He inhaled sharply, nostrils flaring. "This isn't over. Courts take family consensus seriously. And courts despise financial predators." I shot back. His eyes widened. He hadn't expected venom from me. Pain, yes. Fear, definitely. But not fire. The smallest tremor crossed his mouth. He wasn't confident anymore. He was cornered. And cornered people lash. "You don't understand power," he snarled. "You've never had it. Never earned it. You think caring for an old woman makes you special?" "No," I whispered. "But abandoning one does make you something." His hand twitched like he might grab the doorframe just to keep towering over me. Then a voice floated from behind me. Fragile. Firm. "I didn't faint," Grandma said. My uncle's face drained of color. She stood there, steadying herself on the armrest of the hallway chair, wearing her blue robe and a look colder than winter river ice. "I went for a walk," she continued, "with Patricia, my Norsa, in case you'd like to insult her next." My uncle's mouth opened. Soundless. Grandma lifted her chin. "You didn't ask about me. You came here because you're losing control." I sputtered. "Mother. You wanted my house." Her voice trembled not from weakness, but from fury held too long. "But what you failed to understand is that houses don't make a family." She stepped forward, leaning on her cane like it was a scepter. "Love does." Silence drowned the room. "And I refuse," she said slowly, "to die in a world where love doesn't win." He swallowed hard. "Mum." She pointed toward the driveway. Her gesture was small, but it shook the air. "Leave." "Are you really choosing her over your own son?" he choked. She didn't blink. She chose me first. He flinched as if slapped. And that, right there, that single sentence was the truest thing anyone had ever said in my lifetime. He stared at me. One last attempt at intimidation, faltering in his eyes. Then he turned, walked out, and slammed his car door so hard the windows rattled. We watched his taillights disappear. And then I sank to my knees and cried not from fear, but from release. Grandma lowered herself beside me, using more effort than she should have, and pulled my head gently into her lap. "My brave girl," she whispered, stroking my hair. "Sometimes love has to be loud." Her voice quivered, and today it was. I held her hand, squeezing it against my cheek like a child and a guardian at once. "I'm scared," I whispered. "I know," she breathed. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to stand anyway." I closed my eyes and let her words sink deep, like roots into soil finally learning it belonged there. We stayed like that for a long time. In shared quiet. Not fragile. Not broken. Just two women who survived a battlefield without leaving home. And for the first time in my adult life, I believed something I never had before. I wasn't just holding on. I was winning. The next morning, the air felt different. Not lighter, just honest. The kind of air that no longer hides what's broken. I woke early, sat at the edge of my bed, and stared at the sunlight bleeding slowly through the curtains. My hands still trembled from last night. The door slam still echoed in my bones. Conflict leaves residue. Even when you stand your ground. I didn't feel triumphant. You felt human, bruised, awake, and in a strange way stronger than yesterday. I heard soft movement down the hallway. Grandma humming. That thin, wavering tune she returned to when she was well enough to remember music. I stepped toward her door just in time to see her adjusting the silver locket she always wore. The one with the tiny picture of my grandfather inside. "Good morning," she said gently, as if the last 24 hours had been nothing but a brief rainstorm. "Morning," I murmured. "How do you feel?" Like a woman who just kicked a wolf out of her house. She smiled. "Hungry." I laughed, small but real. That was the thing about surviving moments like these. Laughter felt like proof you were still alive. I made us pancakes. Simple. Sweet ones, the way she likes crispy edges. Too much butter. She savored every bite like the world hadn't tried to rip stability away from her the day before. It reminded me of something I once read. The world breaks everyone. And afterward, some are strong at the broken places. I think I was learning to be one of those people. But peace doesn't stay untouched. Not in real life. A few days later, I opened the mailbox and froze. Thin envelope. Law firm return address. My uncle's city. My pulse thumped painfully. Me fingers shook opening it. Words swam at first, then sharpened into icy lines. Petition to review care arrangement and estate control. He was challenging the trust. Even after everything, after being thrown out by Grandma, after humiliation and truth, he was still coming. I sank onto the front steps. Letter in hand. Feeling my throat close. The world blurred. And for a moment, I didn't feel 34. I felt 8 again. Knees skinned. Trying so hard not to cry in front of people who never noticed. Just breathe. Emily. But breathing became a task instead of a reflex. Grandma noticed from the screen door. "What is that?" I held the letter up. Stunned. "He's filing a legal challenge." She closed her eyes slowly. For a moment she looked tired. Unbearably tired, not physically. But the kind of tired only betrayal gives you. "Bring me the phone," she whispered. I did. She dialed a number she knew from memory. "Benjamin," she said calmly when he answered. "Mark is attempting to contest the trust." Silence. Then a brief, sharp breath from the attorney. "On what basis?" "He's angry," she replied. "That's all." He sighed. "Anger is not grounds, and he has no evidence of coercion or incompetency. We will dismantle this quickly." "Thank you," she said softly, hanging up. Then, she turned to me. Fragile but fierce. People don't let go of power easily. Emily, especially when they never earned it. I sat beside her on the steps. "Why does this hurt even when I know the truth?" She squeezed my hand. "Because caring is a double-edged sword. Your heart makes you strong, but it leaves you tender too." Tender. Yes, that was the word. Strength didn't erase tenderness. It sat beside it, like two parts of the same truth. We stayed outside until the wind turned cold. No talking, just sitting with the ache, with the hope, with the quiet knowing that battles don't end just because you win one round. A week later, we were at the courthouse. Not inside yet, outside, near a stone bench shaded by an oak tree, beginning to turn gold at the edges. I had worn my best blouse, hair neat, hands shaking only slightly when I thought no one was watching. Grandma sat beside me, cane resting across her lap, posture straight like a ruler. Nobody looking at her would assume weakness. She radiated history scars, stories, strength. Benjamin stood in front of us, reviewing paperwork. Calm, certain, protective in a quiet way. My uncle arrived with a lawyer of his own. He didn't look victorious. He looked diminished. Anger had carved hollow places in him. He stared at me like I had stolen something when all I ever did was refuse to give up what wasn't his. Emily. He nodded stiffly. I nodded back. Professional, civil, but unbreakable. His lawyer whispered to him urgently while glancing at our documents, realizing, perhaps too late, that they'd walked into a battle they weren't equipped to win. Then something unexpected happened. My uncle's daughter Jessica stepped out of the car behind him. Her face wasn't smug today. It was pale, unsure. She walked straight to me, ignoring her father's glare. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice shaking. "For all of it. I didn't see. I didn't want to." Pain flickered in her eyes, not from guilt, but from realizing too late who she'd believed in. Before I could answer, the bailiff called our names. Hearing the echo of them his. Mine was surreal. I never imagined family could meet in court this way. But there we were. I stood. Grandma reached for my arm not because she needed physical support, but because she chose to stand with me. Step by step, we moved toward the courtroom doors. And in those slow steps, I felt it. I was no longer walking in someone else's shadow. I wasn't the quiet background character in my own family story. I wasn't the girl who stayed behind by default. I was the woman who stood up. The woman who protected. The woman who was chosen not because she demanded it, but because she earned it every silent day. No one saw but her. I took a breath. Not shaky this time. Strong. I pushed open the courtroom door, ready not just to defend my right to be here, but to finally claim it. The courtroom smelled faintly like polished wood, and history, like every truth and lie ever spoken inside, still clung to the air. The walls were tall, proud things, as if they'd seen centuries of people wrestling with power. Grief, blood, inheritance, ego. I walked in holding Grandma's arm, each step steady, each breath deeper than the last. She was fragile. Yes, but beside me she looked regal, unshaken, as though she had survived far worse storms than a son blinded by entitlement. Benjamin walked just ahead, documents tucked under his arm like quiet weapons. He didn't stride with arrogance, he moved with certainty, the kind of certainty born from truth, not bluster. Across the aisle sat Uncle Mark, shoulders rigid, eyes darting. His lawyer leaned in, whispering hurried legal jargon like a medic, trying to stop a wound from bleeding. Except this wound was pride, and pride bleeds slow. I could feel it, the tension, anger, humiliation twisting off him. He looked at me, and I saw a man who still couldn't believe I hadn't folded, that the quiet girl had become the one person he couldn't shove aside. He stared at Grandma next to him, eyes flicking over her posture, her clarity, her cane like he was hoping to find cracks big enough to pry open. He wouldn't. Not today. The judge entered. Everyone rose. My heartbeat pulsed in my ears. But I stayed steady. My palms didn't sweat this time. My spine stayed tall. "Be seated," the judge said. Papers rustled. Breaths caught. Time slowed into that suspended hush before something irreversible begins. Benjamin stood first. "Your Honor, we represent Mrs. Margaret Hartwell and her granddaughter, Emily Hartwell. We are here to defend the validity of an irrevocable living trust, executed with full legal and mental capacity." Me uncle's lawyer rose next. "We seek to question the circumstances of that trust. We believe undue influence may be at play." Undue influence. The words fell like an insult wearing a suit. My uncle didn't look at the judge. When the accusation was spoken, he looked at me, as though I had tricked the universe into loving me. Benjamin opened a folder. We would like to begin by introducing medical assessments confirming Mrs. Prusant Hartwell's cognitive capacity at the time of signing. He handed documents to the clerk evaluations from neurologists, primary doctors, specialists, an entire scaffolding of proof. Uncle's lawyer cleared his throat. We request time to review. This information was provided to your office days ago. Benjamin replied smoothly. A quiet gasp rippled from our side of the room. Not from drama, from truth sharpening. The judge lifted a brow, unimpressed. Then Grandma spoke. Not loud, not trembling, but with the calm authority of someone who has lived long enough to see every brand of human motivation. I requested the trust, she said. No one coerced me. My son had years to show up. Hejos a convenience. She touched my hand. Chose love. My uncle flinched like her touch on me burned him. His voice cracked. Mother, you were never here, she whispered, eyes steady on him. An absence is a choice. Silence. Painful. Defining silence. The judge looked at her. Mrs. Hartwell, you are confident in this arrangement. She lifted her chin. I am confident in my granddaughter. I am confident in my decision. I am confident in my mind. And then she delivered a blow no courtroom transcript could ever capture. And I am confident my son forgot how to put family before pride. My uncle's face collapsed into something raw. Exposed. A child punished. A man rejected. A legacy slipping through his fingers. He whispered, You always loved her more. Grandma's voice softened just barely. No, I loved you both, but only one of you loved me back. Something in him broke then. Not anger, something deeper. The kind of breaking that comes only when truth refuses to bend. His lawyer cleared his throat. Sensing the collapse. Your Honor, we withdraw the petition. A ripple of shock moved through the benches. I sucked in a breath. I didn't realize I'd been holding. The judge nodded. Very well. Petition withdrawn. The trust stands. And just like that, not with applause, not with triumph music, but with quiet words and a crack in someone's ego, the war ended. The gavel struck. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I simply exhaled, finally understanding what strength feels like not as force, but as endurance. Outside, autumn wind lifted leaves into slow spirals around our feet. Grandma held my elbow as we walked to the car. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. My uncle stood near his vehicle, shoulders sagging, staring at the pavement like it held answers he should have learned decades ago. Jessica approached me again, voice soft. I meant what I said before. I'm sorry. I studied her face, searching for sincerity. It was there, tired, ashamed, real. I know, I whispered. Then she did something unexpected. She hugged me. Not tight, not dramatic, just enough to say she was trying. After she pulled back, I turned to Grandma. Let's go home, I murmured. She smiled. Home. Yes. As I opened the car door for her, she touched my arm lightly. You see now, she whispered. Quiet doesn't mean powerless. It means patient enough to pick the right moment. And I realized I hadn't changed into someone stronger. I had simply become the woman I always was, beneath years of silence. Sometimes power doesn't roar. Sometimes it just stands up and refuses to move. I wasn't the shadow anymore. I wasn't the forgotten granddaughter. I was the protector, the rightful heir of love and loyalty, the one who stayed not because I had nowhere else to go, but because someone I loved needed me. And that kind of devotion, it builds the kind of strength family politics can never dismantle. We drove home in quiet, golden light, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was holding a falling world together. I felt held, by truth, by justice, by her, and by myself. The first night after the hearing, sleep didn't come easily, not because of fear. Fear had finally loosened its grip, but because silence feels unfamiliar after a long season of battle. When you've lived months bracing for footsteps, for phone calls, for the weight of someone trying to take everything from you, quiet feels like a new language. A kind one, a safe one, but still new. I lay awake listening to the soft hum of the house, the creaks in the wood, the whir of the old heater, the rustle of Grandma turning in her room. Ordinary sounds, blessed sounds, not threats, not alarms. Victory is gentle. I never knew that. When morning finally arrived, it came slow and golden. Not with fanfare, just warmth spreading across the walls like a quiet promise. You're safe now. And for once, I believed it. I walked into the kitchen and found Grandma already awake, wrapped in her favorite knit shawl, staring out the window at the rose bushes touched with dew. She looked peaceful, beautiful in the way resilience always is. "Couldn't sleep?" I asked softly. She smiled without looking at me. "Too busy being grateful." I sat beside her. "For what?" "For you choosing love," she said. "Not just for me, but finally for yourself." I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat tightened with emotion. I hadn't let myself touch until now. Because she was right, I had spent years offering love outward, hoping someone might one day offer it back. But somewhere along this journey, I had turned that love inward too. Quietly, steadily, without ceremony. I had learned I deserved gentleness not from the world, but from myself. We shared a soft quiet until she reached over, her fragile hand gently covering mine. "Emily, life won't always reward you for doing the right thing, but it will never punish you for loving honestly." I swallowed a tear. Do you think they'll ever forgive me?" She chuckled softly, a sound like brittle leaves stirring. "My dear, they don't need to forgive you. They need to understand themselves. And if they don't, then let them live with the weight of their choices. You don't have to carry it for them anymore." That sentence, that was freedom. Weeks passed like pages turning without force. Grandma's physical therapist visited regularly. Her steps grew steadier, her laugh brighter. Sometimes she forgot the day, or misplaced a thought, but she never forgot me, and every time she reached for my hand without hesitation, I felt rooted to this earth in a way I'd never known before. I found a rhythm too. Work calls in the morning, slow afternoons making lunch together, evenings sitting beside her as she painted sunflowers in watercolor strokes, soft as breathing. My life wasn't glamorous, not dramatic, not flashy. It was steady, earnest, true. And one afternoon, as sunlight spilled across the kitchen counter, I caught sight of myself in the window's reflection, a woman standing tall, sure-footed, at peace, and realized something. I didn't just survive this story. I grew inside it. I built myself inside the quiet moments. No one applauded. I learned my voice not by shouting but by refusing to disappear. Some people find power in rooms full of applause. I found mine in the soft resolve of saying, "I deserve to be here." And maybe that's the kind of strength the world doesn't immediately recognize, but it's the kind that lasts. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sky turn violet, my phone buzzed. A message from Jessica. "I'm working on myself. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness yet, but I hope one day I can earn a place in your life again." I stared at the words for a long time, feeling not anger, but clarity. We don't heal by cutting people down. We heal by knowing whose hands we can hold and whose we must let go. I typed back only what felt honest. "Take your time. Healing isn't a race." I didn't need revenge. I didn't need vindication. I didn't need them to lose for me to win. The world had already given me my justice. A life where I no longer question my worth. Months later, on a surprisingly warm spring morning, Grandma and I planted marigolds along the fence. She wore her sun hat crooked, soil under her nails, eyes sparkling like she was 25 again. And as the flowers nestled into fresh earth, she said softly, "Love grows when you choose it, even after hurt, especially after hurt." I brushed dirt from my palms, breath catching with quiet truth. She wasn't talking about the flowers. She was talking about me. And in that moment, surrounded by sunlight and soil, and the woman who never stopped believing in me, I whispered something I had never said out loud, not to her, not to myself. I finally feel like I belong. She smiled. You always did. You just had to see it. And standing there, hands dirty, heart full, I finally did. To anyone watching this, to anyone who has felt invisible in their own family, or underestimated, or pushed aside, you are not small. You are not replaceable. Your quiet strength is still strength. Sometimes the bravest thing you can ever do is stay when staying matters, and walk away when leaving saves you. If this story touched you, if it reminded you of your own worth, or your own battles, I want to hear from you in the comments. Share your experience. Your strength might be the light someone else needs. And if you're healing too, if you're finding your voice in a world that taught you to whisper, I'm proud of you. Please like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe for more stories that honor quiet courage, true loyalty, and the kind of love that outlasts the noise. Your voice matters. Your heart matters. And you belong here.